Hello and welcome to Nate's channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how I sculpt braids in Nomad Sculpt. So the first thing we're going to do is create a new layer, make sure our head is selected, and name that layer drawing hair. I have a video where I teach you how to draw eyebrows, and in that video I show that you have to create the eyebrows on a different layer. So for this video, that layer is the layer that we're going to use to create our hair texture. Going back to drawing hair, this layer we're going to outline the hair. So that means the hairline and down the center of the head, and outline any sort of hairstyle that you are looking to do for your sculpt. For this one, we're doing 2 braids, so we're going to do the line straight down the head, and then we're going to outline the hairline in the back, around the ears, and in the front of the head. Once that is complete, we're going to lower the opacity of this layer, and on this same layer we're going to go in and outline the actual braid. So that means we're going to go from the tip of the front of the head, and then we're going to go back to the back of the head where the braid will follow. That line is where your braid will follow. The next thing that I'm doing here is creating the parts. So when braiding someone's hair, you will notice sometimes in videos that they part their hair and do these little sections. This is the part that we're creating right now. We're just outlining, and on these lines we will not draw on or add the hair strands on while we're creating our hair. That, using our crease tool, we're going to go as small as we can, hairline thin, and then we're going to turn up the intensity all the way up. And after that, we're going to choose our color for our hair. Make sure you choose the color that you want for this sculpt, because you cannot change it after. Also, the crease tool is in invert mode. Now we're going to actually start adding the hair strands. We're going to start at the tip of the widow's peak, and then we're going to pull back into the line that we created for the braid, and we're just going to keep doing that and doing that. We don't have to build up to the point where it's so dark, because at the end of this step we're going to do another step that will require you to make that part darker, so you don't have to do a lot of detail. Just make sure that it's filled in. Do this technique for the baby hairs as well. You can never go wrong with baby hairs. After we are done doing the little strands of hair, to make this darker, as I mentioned before, we're going to use the clay tool, and we're going to put it in the color black and just draw over the insides of each of these parts to make them darker. notice how the clay is being built up? This is what we want, because the parts are not flat when you're doing your hair. It's sort of, it goes from flat against the head in the front and then builds, and then it collects and builds up towards the actual braid. So that's the effect that we're looking for. Once that step is complete, we're going to go ahead and start creating our actual cornrows. Go to the tube tool and we're going to just follow the line in the middle of each of those parts and just go back behind the head, and then we're going to move the points to be on top of the head, not inside. As you can see, we're going to move them outside, and then we're going to adjust the wave or the rhythm of the braid that we want. You can do this any way. If you have shoulders, you can put it over the shoulder. If you have, you could go all the way down the back, one over the shoulder, one on the back, whatever way you want. Once we get where we want with our braids, we're going to adjust the radius of each point, and by doing that you have to tap radius twice, and this will allow you to edit each point. We're going to start really tiny at the top of the tube, and then as we're going down to the end of that tube, we're going to make it wider in the center and then go back to small at the end of the braid. The next thing that we're going to do is use the flatten tool to flatten the top of those tubes. crease tool, we're going to go in a zigzag motion down the tube we just created, and this will be the starter of the braid that we're going to create. If you ever drew a braid before, there's usually tutorials that you have to do like a zigzag. You're going to do this all the way down the tube. Using the inflate tool, we're going to start creating the parts of the braids. I call these pods. For now, this is just going to be our starter. After we create these 3 or 4, we're going to do the zigzag motion on the back of the tube, and we're going to use these parts as like a guide for the zigzags on the front. This part gets a little tricky because you have to almost get the zigzags like extremely perfect, not perfect, but good enough so that the pod connects all the way around that tube. Once that is done, we're going to go back to the inflate tool and we're going to start puffing up those pods and connecting them. Notice how when I went from the back to the front that it connects. That is where it gets a little tricky. So I actually go back and I use the crease tool to outline the pod all the way around the tube. And then once that is complete, I'm going to go back to the inflate tool and the clay tool, and I'm going to draw and puff up those pods more all the way around. Go all the way up to the tip of the braid at the top of the head and make sure that it looks like it's puffed up at the bottom as well. So you're going to curve all the way around still, and this will give us our braid foundation. As mentioned before, I'm using the clay tool to start building up that sort of hair texture and creating the pods for each braid. I use the clay tool now, but not the inflate tool anymore, because the clay tool, I noticed as I was doing my video that it gives me that hair strand type feeling, so I won't have to go back with the crease tool and create those hair strands in those pods. In my videos, you will notice that sometimes I go back and change things. This is because I'm learning as I go, because I like that I am learning with you guys, and I would also like if you guys leave advice or tips or comments on what I do wrong or what I should do different, or if my technique is good or if it's bad. Once that one side is complete, we're going to go on and move to the other side, and we're going to do this all the way up to the top of the braid. all your knickknacks and tweak the braids a little bit and do everything you need to do, you're going to go into paint, and we're going to paint the entire object. So the braids, we're going to paint the entire thing, and we're going to do that in black, the same color as the hairs on the head. That is our final step. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment below on anything else you want to learn or anything I should try, and check out my other videos on how I do eyebrows, sculpt the head, and even do the lashes.